Our third guest speaker is the EVP, Corporate Management Director and Treasurer of Vitarich Corporation. As such, she is in charge of funding, assets, securities, receipts, and disbursements of the corporation. She oversees efficient operations, allocates funds, and negotiates contracts and prices as well. Prior to Vitarich, she worked as a store manager at Le Pont Quotidien, an international chain of cafe-style restaurants specializing in bakery items. Early on, she held the front desk position at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in San Francisco. She holds a degree in International Hospitality Management from the Glion Institute of Education, formerly known as the Glion Hotel Schools, a private university-level Swiss hotel management school in Switzerland. She joined Vitarich in October 2003, and in February 2020, she was elected President of the Philippine Association of Feed Millers Incorporated, PAFMI, and served its board for 2 years. Here to talk about the situation, opportunities, and moving forward in the Philippine broiler industry, let's welcome Ms. Stephanie Nicole Sarmiento Garcia.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, e-agricom, for this invite. My name is Stephanie Nicole Garcia, but to make it short, call me Nikki. Today, I'll be presenting the Philippine broiler industry, and I'm hoping at the end of this presentation, our audience will have a greater appreciation and mindfulness while they eat their fried chicken or lechon manok. Before we start, I'd like to make some housekeeping rules requested by our lawyers. First, this presentation reflects my opinion and not the opinion of our company. It is subject to the copyright, and any reproduction or use without prior notice and written consent is strictly prohibited. To those interested to secure a copy of the presentation for personal use, you can just kindly coordinate with the event's organizer. At the end of the day, just ask permission, okay lang tayo. So a little background of the company which I belong to, Vitarich Corporation. Vitarich was founded by my grandparents in the 1950s. It went through a phenomenal expansion and grew to become one of the leading feed mill integrators back in the day. Our three core values are excellence, leadership with integrity, and care for others. Today, we operate nationwide and are among the top 5 integrators in the Philippines. It is led by our CEO, my brother, Mr. Rocco Sarmiento, and our chairman, Mr. Joey Bengson. We are proud to say that we are proud partners of leading local brands such as Jollibee, Peri Peri, Shakey's, Ando's Lechon Manok, and SM Supermarket, to name a few. So let's go to the brief proper. I'd like to make a short outline or flow of my presentation today. We will tackle first our current situation of the local broiler industry. Second are the challenges faced by the industry. Last but not the least, our bright future and opportunity in our industry. As mentioned by our dear Secretary Dar, the poultry subsector remains to be the bright spot for the agricultural industry, and this is supported by numbers. Presented on the left-hand side is the contribution of the poultry sector to the growth of the agriculture, forestry, and fishery, or shortened as AFF. Data shows that from 2015 to 2019, the poultry sector, on average, contributed 0.48% of the 1.27% AFF growth, the highest among the AFF subsectors. On the right-hand side is a graph that shows us poultry had a consistent growth year-on-year from 2016 until 2019. Unfortunately, COVID-19 peaked in 2020, and there was a reduction of dressed chicken production, mainly due to two major items. These are unabated importation of finished meats and low demand. Next, I would like to mention that the local broiler industry has been a self-sufficient industry. Ngayon, anong ibig sabihin nito? On the left-hand side is the 2021 situation. The orange bar shows in 1 year supply, and the yellow bar represents demand in million metric tons. The blue bar represents importation. What we want you to take away that in the year of 2021, even with a series of intermittent lockdowns, the local industry was sufficient as seen with the orange bar. The same goes with the first 2 months of 2022. The graph on the right shows the dressed chicken supply still outpaced demand in the first 2 months of the year. And again, we would like to reiterate that our local supply was sufficient to supply all our demand in the first 2 months of this year. Next, I'd like to go to the next topic, which are some of the challenges we face. I would like to point out the unabated importation of finished meat products, especially chicken. From 2018 to 2021, there has been an increase of importation by 83%, in spite of demand being significantly low in the recent years due to the pandemic. Why do we still need to import chicken when the previous slide mentioned that we are self-sufficient? This topic has been extensively covered by media and has been a subject of several Senate inquiries, as shown on your right-hand side. The non-stop importation has severely affected the local value chain, displacing a local industry. What happens when unabated importation of finished meats or finished chickens enters the country? There is a whole displacement of income and livelihood due to unabated chicken importation. What this slide is showing us that in 2019, displacement of income and livelihood of our local broiler sector. And this amounted to a surmountable amount of 95 billion pesos. Hindi po million, billion pesos po. Did you know, with every kilo of importation that we displace, a whole value chain is endangered. And this displaces the livelihood of millions of our kapwang Filipinos. Itong walang tigil na importasyon hampers a local value chain. So let me explain the importance of this graph. What the whole gray section shows is what gets displaced. Before you grow the chicken and before it is in your plate, it takes them 28 to 35 days to grow. During this time, a whole value chain springs into action. This includes our million of Filipino farmers, our friends in the feed millers, chicken growers, our friends in the vets, logistical partners, and distributors, so on and so forth. So it is very important that we really balance our trade and not hamper our local food supply chain as well. As we do not want to create any excessive importation. Another challenge of our local industry is the unregulated online selling of imported food commodities, commonly through our favorite Facebook accounts and chat applications such as Viber and WhatsApp. We want to point out here there are health and safety risks due to improper and hazardous storing and handling, not to mention transportation of these frozen food commodities. An example would be a picture shown on your left. This can also be a potential entry of animal diseases such as ASF and bird flu. Our top 5 international suppliers of imported chicken are already infected with avian influenza. The United States and Brazil have already had a poultry ban dated 2020 and 2022 respectively. We need to increase our safeguards of our local industry to mitigate animal biosecurity risks. We also need to minimize the risk of exposure to avian influenza. Another issue faced recently is the lack of responsible journalism on local bird flu. While ducks and quails were infected, some news websites use pictures of broilers. This gives a wrong impression to the consumers. As such, we appeal for accurate reporting from our media partners. On this slide, I'd also like to echo the sentiments mentioned by our dear President, Edwin Mapanaw. Another challenge we face is the increasing cost of commodities that form a key ingredient for our feeds. For everyone's information, corn accounts for around 60% of our feed formulation, as illustrated on the pie chart on your left. Once the cost of corn goes up, 60% of our cost goes up. This in turn puts an inflationary effect to the price of dressed chicken, as broiler feeds account to 60 to 70% of the cost of production, as shown in the table on your right-hand side. To echo again what Pathni mentioned, based on Pathni records, local corn prices are at an all-time high in 2022. And this coincides with PSA data on the year-on-year contraction of local corn stocks. Based on PSA records, there is a 21% contraction of corn stock inventory from February 2021 to February 2022. I would like to cite PSA. Food inflation has remained at 1.6%, and the annual corn inflation growth rate, it has increased to 27% from 16% versus last year. Like what the two other speakers has mentioned, I would also like to reiterate the effects of the Russia-Ukraine conflict to our factor in local inflation. Did you know that the war has heavily disrupted the global supply chain, thus driving costs across the world? This is because Ukraine and Russia account to 64% of global sunflower oil supply, 23% of wheat supply, 19% of barley supply, and 18% of corn supply in the world. All of these are all essential feed ingredients. As such, we expect that there will be a global shortage of essential grains and vegetable oils in the next couple of years, thus increasing global prices of related commodities. I would like to tackle a very confusing subject of import tax or tariff distortion. On this table, but it will be quite difficult to comprehend in one go, it's a comparison of import taxes or tariffs within the supply chain of growing chicken from its raw material until its finished meat. It highlights one of the major factors why local players cannot be competitive. First is our high cost to acquire inputs, even if we are locally insufficient. Second, what will stop feed millers and integrators to import their finished feeds within the ASEAN at zero tariffs? Last is that the import tax or tariff imposed on imported chicken and chicken byproducts barely safeguards local producers, given that imported chicken commodities are produced more efficiently abroad due to the accessible feed inputs and production support from the government. I would like to highlight the fact that the Philippines is a competitive local growing player in terms of actually growing the chicken. It is on feed input and other incidental costs that we lag behind from our foreign competitors. As such, I strongly believe that we need an equal playing field by making our inputs more accessible, affordable, and affordable to capitalize on our strong capabilities. I believe that given the right policies and incentives for a local business sector, chicken can be the most affordable local fresh meat for the short and medium term for our consumers. Chicken can also become the accessible protein for our friends in the meat processor and hotel restaurant industry. Not only are the supplies fresh, but also we are providing livelihood to our fellow Filipinos. Making chicken the meat of choice contributes to Zero Hunger Initiative initiated by the UN and can help solve malnutrition in our country. With innovation and sustainable business practices, the broiler industry can become the forefront of both local food sufficiency and safety in our country. As we can see on the left-hand side, chicken is the most affordable protein meat in the Philippines to date versus pork and versus beef, based on the price monitoring of the Department of Agriculture. With that said, however, the Philippines also has the highest dressed chicken retail price versus our Southeast Asian counterparts, such as Vietnam and Thailand, as shown in the graph on your right. There is surely an opportunity to make ourselves more competitive both locally and internationally, given a proper recalibration of our value chain and a stronger and more enabling local business environment. Next, I wish our locally grown chicken become the supplier of choice for our local meat processors, such as your hot dog, tocino suppliers, as well as your hotel and restaurant institutes. Local poultry is tastier due to its freshness. It provides affordable and accessible protein. It also helps the environment due to the lower carbon footprint versus other meats. Most important is that it provides local livelihood by helping people in the whole value chain. What I want to point out here is on your right-hand side are faces of those people who work in our industries. Ito po yung mga feed millers natin, magsasaka, chicken growers, and their families. For every kilo of chicken that our partners in the food processing and hotel restaurant industry buy, they not only grow their own businesses, but they also create livelihood for the people who work in the value chain and provide sustenance to all their families. You can imagine the economic impact locally if there is an intention to buy local. Chicken is a good source of nutrition, especially for protein. And when we increase our protein intake, our children, in turn, lessens the stunted growth of our children and improves brain development. Given the proper support, we would like chicken available and accessible all year round, making it both sustainable and productive. Yung maganda sa manok, we practically use every single part of it, including the feathers. Alam natin, kumakain tayo ng chicken feet, pati Betamax. But what a lot of people don't know is we actually render the feathers and we use it as fertilizer and feed ingredient for our friends in the aqua feed business. So chicken is a very efficient animal kasi po wala pang tinatapon. I believe that the local supply chain in our industry is the most environmentally friendly due to the fact that we recycle, we upscale, and we value add everything to the chicken. Last but not the least, it is important that we continuously pursue the opportunity to innovate and create sustainable business practices. For Vitarich, at the heart of our business is our consumer. Part of the company's innovation includes streamlining the means of securing food at a reasonable, responsible, and safe manner. Vitarich's innovation is through our technology of packing and processing our meats. This is the Cook's freshly frozen chicken. The technology of vacuum sealing and blast frozen allows our product to become fresher, safer, and naturally preserves our product. Syempre, I'm a mom and I want the best for my family. I want my chicken masarap, makarne at malambot. And Cook's tackles all of the needs that I was looking for. Growing a business gives also a lot of moral responsibility. The bayanihan spirit is alive. We have a moral obligation to really help our kababayans who are in need of these challenging times. The goal is to grow the value chain and help build and sustain the local livelihood. And as we grow, we can help those in need. We must give back to our communities and empower the value chain. So to wrap up this short presentation, I'd like to reiterate with a few points. First, we are self-sufficient. Second, we do have a lot of opportunities. And third, in spite of the challenges we face, we have the opportunity to grow our local businesses. And it is important that sama-sama tayo magtulungan to make our local industry grow because no one else will help us. And as we say in Vitarich, let us continue forging livelihood and nourishing lives. So, to wrap up this talk of mine, to make things a bit more exciting, we created a little raffle for those participants. So what we will be doing is we will be giving away 2,500 peso Jollibee gift certificates. Now, paano nyo makukuha to? Kasi sayang naman, di ba? You just need to follow our FB page at Vitarich Corporation and at Cooks by Vitarich. All you have to do is simply click or heart react to any of our posts in these pages. So simply click on the heart and the acne reaction. Okay, next. When sharing our post, tag us in your caption and use the hashtag Vitarich, Forging Livelihood, Nourishing Lives. And also let's encourage our family and friends to also interact with our post and follow our page as well. Then, pag tapos na, just send us a screenshot of your FB profile and send to marketing@vitarich.com along with additional details such as your name, address, and your active mobile number. The 20 FB accounts with the most engagement, such as reactions, comments, or sharing their posts will receive 500 peso Jollibee gift certificate each. This special promo will run starting today until April 30. So I hope you enjoyed the talk and grab your phones and start liking our FB posts and pages and enjoy the Jollibee food, and hopefully may the best engager win. Thank you very much.